pinnacle of human perspective.
Welcome to Paranormal Frequencies 2024. That was such a throwback. I had to put that intro in there just for fun. What's up, Sherry? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. If you guys at any point hear any kind of what sounds like a demonic voice in the background, it's just my voice coming through her speaker. It happens just every once in a while. So don't freak out because this is Paranormal Frequencies, right? So
Yep.
it's been a while. Gosh, so much has happened since we had some other shows. You've been through quite a bit of stuff, and
Yes, I've had a long year and a half.
yeah, but you've come out victorious.
Yes, I'm doing well.
That is awesome. So I
I
thought
was
it'd
so,
be. Go ahead.
go ahead. I was scared to live alone, and now I'm doing great, and I love it.
Yeah, you got your.
Yeah.
Also have your dog that might Luna might make a little
Yes.
guest appearance, a cameo in the background at some point.
I don't know if she's all knocked out right now, but she may.
That's awesome. So I thought it would be cool to just get on here. We had this conversation. We were talking about some cool stuff. I'm like, man, this would make for a great show because I know so many people are interested in it. And one of the main topics I kind of want to make sure I circle back around to and kind of complete or whatever is the first question that you asked at the Q&A session of the 2019 uh, IMEC International Mandela Effect Conference. And it's strange because every year someone asks that same question. And I made sure I talked to the people this year and let them know like this topic is at the top of everyone's list. And
Mhm.
of course we have to be careful with what we say, but we can say we're talking about SA or S, what was the other one? SRA or
Sorry. Hmm.
right? Or just the global trafficking ring type issues, right? So just that whole topic is like on the top of everyone's list, and it feels like it's so out of reach. And I think that
Yeah.
was sort of our answer to the question in 2019 is that, you don't want it to pull your frequency down when it's something that's out of your reach, at least in the physicals. And this year I circled back to that same response, but said there is something we can do with our intentions. And it was shown to me that we can envision beautiful things like angels protecting the little
Yeah.
ones or them being rescued. We can just imagine things working out and just use our power of the imagination. And the whole reason I'm wanting to bring this up is in a session recently, it was really amazing because it it's going to happen just like I thought it would happen. One day we wake up and none of that, it's all going to be like it never existed and we were wrong. We were believing some kind of weird conspiracy that just was untrue. Just in the same way people are like there's always been Rainbow Mountains. That's never been a thing. The whole pizza thing has never been a thing, right? Because we're actually going to move away from that. So in our intentions and everything, when that does seem to happen, we need to let go of that reality because it's no longer part of this reality again. And so that's really the beauty of all of this. So there will be a time of that shifting out of our reality. And that's kind of like I wanted to bring that up right at the beginning because I know some people get busy or they fall asleep or get distracted.
I, I think that finally we're going to have an answer to all the conspiracy theories and why they're there. So that's going to be fun to talk about because it's
Absolutely.
always been a big question of mine.
Right.
I think we're starting to get the answers on it.
Absolutely. And one of the things when I really delve into like just the nature of reality and I can see it like a movie or like a game and things like that, a lot of the sessions I've had with you where I was able to connect to higher consciousness, super consciousness, if you will, um, and get clarification on a lot of what I was seeing or experiencing because so much of the nature of our reality can't really be explained in regular words. You have to just say it's similar to this. It's like a game or it's like a school or it's like a movie or it's like, because there's just no way to pin down exactly what it is. So I thought this would be a good place for me to sort of compile all that I've learned from my different sessions with the super consciousness to give us a better picture of just the complete nature of our reality. Because when you see the multiple perspective thing, even this topic we're talking about that's going to be phasing out of our reality, you'll see it as a whole different thing going on than what it seems like from within this reality and the horrors of the way things look like when you're in the actual movie or in the game. You know what I mean?
And I've been getting to a place where I'm like more blissful and very peaceful. And this was just one of those lingering background questions things that I just feel like is getting worked out really just kind of today from retrospect of the session with the, I don't know. It's just like it kind of does that though, because you get kind of more insights as a little bit of time goes by.
Hmm. Yeah, and then things as you see things play out, it makes a lot more sense what you were getting because you just weren't seeing the complete picture. It's hard to see the complete picture until it actually starts to play out. In fact, that's one of the things, we had a little deal going on because you had said something in one of your sessions like 4 years ago.
I didn't have a whole lot of faith in the sessions, and so I'm kind of fighting with myself.
Right. Okay, so just so you guys that don't know, Sherry is a somnambulist. That's a person that's like a person that completely goes into a trance and just talks and has no idea what they're saying. They're like she doesn't remember her sessions at all.
Which is
Sometimes,
scary because you don't know what you're going to say, you know? Anyway, go ahead. But I'm
yeah,
getting better.
right, right, yeah, and I get it. I totally get it. It would be creepy. Everybody thinks it's cool, and that's what they would want. But when you really think about, it's I'm glad I've had you to talk to about it. And like, I can totally see how it would be creepy as hell, to listen to a recording of yourself talking. And you're like, that's not me talking. You know what I mean? That would be
Yeah.
kind of creepy. I'm not lying. I'm right with you. So I don't judge
A lot
anybody
of
that doesn't
I,
want to do that. But we
I
all
say
want
stuff
that.
that I
Is
don't agree with, though. I say stuff I don't agree with, and it would like bother me.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for you
So, and this
go.
is one of those things. Okay. So, oh gosh, we even have to be careful about the date. Okay. So, in January 4 years ago, when all of that stuff happened at the Capitol, the day after that, I was giving Sherry a session. Now, just to give you guys a little recap, back then when we're talking about the that was the day that every headline was blaming Trump for this insurrection at the Capitol. I mean, everybody was like,
And
that's
I
all
didn't
you
even
saw.
know because
Well,
I don't
okay,
watch.
okay. So just so you guys know, Sherry's not political at all. So for her, she probably didn't even like really wasn't even paying attention to what was going on with all that, or didn't realize what a big deal everybody was making of it in the news. She just doesn't follow the news like that. So, and of course, I follow enough alternative news that they were all talking about the mainstream was like trying to blow this into something that it wasn't. And of course, when you went on Rumble, you found out like this whole thing was like a big setup with like agent provocateurs and I don't know. Even the Epic Times did a pretty good piece on it. You can go check it out about that day and all of the suspicious activities and all the suspicious people that were on the grounds and all the actual Trump supporters that were trying to stop them and saying no, that's not what we're about and things like that. The media didn't
Right.
show any of that. They just focused their attention on where they knew these sort of agent provocateurs would be. We're probably getting in deep, deep into what YouTube considers dangerous information. You know, when they try to label me dangerous, this is what they're talking about, right? Probably shouldn't talk too much about this. But anyway, so that day after, when every headline in that session, Sherry says that Trump will be president again, right?
I know. And
Right.
I was like, no, can't believe I said that. That's never going to happen. And then it looked like he was going to go to jail and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
It only looked like it went downhill from there. And of course, I'm like, is he going to be president? Because you know, you could totally see all the shady stuff that was going on. So I thought he was going to be president like later that month, you know. And then
right.
so when that didn't happen, Sherry began to think, well, it's not going to happen, you know, it was wrong or whatever, you know. And I was like, I don't feel like it was wrong. I don't know when, but he's definitely going to be president again because the information, I just believe in the information. It's always been right about
And
everything.
I was like, no way.
So here we are. So
Here
I
we are.
reached out to her. I'm like, hey, it looks like Trump got elected again. You ready to do another session?
Because we had kind of made a bet, I think. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
been a long time.
Yeah, it really has, hasn't
If Trump becomes president, I'll do it again and say whatever I say because I hate that because I don't know what I'm going to say.
it? Right, but that's kind of the cool thing about it is that you're not into politics, and if you were, no one ever in their right mind would have predicted that day. You know what I mean? Because things looked really dark. It didn't look like, and I've only shared it with maybe 4 people. You know, I think I probably like told Daryl and Pam. Um, I know told Debbie Solaris and probably Candace because we talk about stuff that comes through in sessions and stuff. But I haven't really. It wasn't something that like you didn't want it out there really, so I wasn't able to really say anything about it because you were
Yeah,
so sure there was no way it was going to happen again.
I
You know.
know.
So I wasn't
It's
surprised when they nicked his ear. By the way, I'm like, I knew you know.
he was going to be okay.
Yeah, he had to be okay. You know. So yeah, it's really interesting the information that comes through and how accurate it's been, and when it really gets into the nature of our reality,
It's interesting.
it's interesting. So I finally connected some of the pieces. One of the main pieces that I always get is I find it difficult whenever information is coming through because they explained it before, like most simply that things start with the logos. Like I think the Bible even talks about that. The logos, and then it like spawns another logos, and it spawns another logos, and then it's kind of like you can think of it like the galaxy, and then our solar system, and then like our planet, you know, because it's got the moons and other little debris flying around it, satellites, even, right? Artificial stuff. And then even us, we have our energy fields floating around us. So there's like sort of this fractal nature within
Mhm.
nature that appears. But I was trying to figure out, like, it's just always a big question for me, like, where do we go when we die? Or like, where are the aliens at? Or like where are the higher beings that speak to us at, like our higher selves or the super consciousness? So I finally got that missing link in there. I mean, I finally got a clear answer because it seems like they always talk around like they don't want you to know or something that everything we think of here as being like the universe, as far as the eye can see and all of that, is all part of the matrix. It's all part of this construct. So if they're
Yeah.
outside of this, it's not like they're on a distant planet really far away. They're not even in this. And the way out of this, because this is just artwork on the outside of the bubble, the only way out is to go in. So it's like we've been pulled out of our divine true nature of who we are into this fractal piece of fakeness, forgetting who we are in this bubble of forgetfulness. So,
And I think that there's so many things that point to that, like a lot of the Mandela effects, like the Christmas trees being upside down, bananas,
right.
all that. It's
Yeah.
it's really trying to show us, you know,
Yeah.
that
For
it's
Thanksgiving, third
that.
Thursday, how, you know,
Yeah.
you remember all these specifics about it, and then all of a sudden it's the fourth Thursday, and and then for me it's always a double whammy because you got the people that are like, yeah, it's always been like that, so it's almost like you get hit in the face right after you realize the Mandela effect, and it's like an instant slap in the face. I don't know, it's
Oh,
always like that.
so impactful. And it makes my thing is, and I've always said this, people probably are like, all right. But it just proves that this universe, our reality is malleable, and that is miraculous to
Hmm.
know that it can just change, you
Right.
know?
That's why I think it's important to realize, like, it's not the devil doing it, because you're automatically putting yourself in this place that there can't be positive Mandela effects, right? If you're just assuming the devil's doing it right off the bat, at least leave it like neutral and say, like, who knows, maybe it's a byproduct of something else, or whatever.
It's
Yeah.
interesting because I always saw all of them as positive, except a lot of the Bible changes. But
Right.
now I'm starting to have a different perspective on that and just seeing there's just a lot of things that are opposite of what we've been told.
Absolutely. And for me, they were revelations of truth of things that I had already felt I discovered about the Bible, right? So, like, I had even talked years ago about feeling like Paul had sort of sowed confusion within the church with some of his writings, because a lot of the denominations within the Christian church were divided over things that Paul said in his different epistles, right? About speaking in tongues, or about wearing a head covering, or about, like, all these weird, like, most people don't realize there's 38,000 different denominations. That's a lot of different versions of Christianity. So it's like,
And
when
I
you
know
realize.
from, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, yeah, to sum up that little thing, I felt like he sowed division and he robbed from the church. And then we have that Mandela effect of saying that he robbed from the church. Like, we actually have a Mandela effect at scripture. I think it's 2 Corinthians 8:11 or 11:8 maybe, or something, but it says he robbed from other churches to do you good, or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah,
Hmm.
and that wasn't like that for me. He didn't admit to robbing churches. He's a
Right.
saint. Did saints
I know.
rob churches?
I remember with my religious background, I started studying so much even when I was very young, and people would say it sounds like you worship Paul, because I was definitely a Pauline epistle girl,
Right.
big time,
Yeah.
and all of that. So, but also we got to look at those scriptures that were in the Bible. Like I think it's Amos 8:11 that says, one day people will be running to and fro to search for the truth, the Bible or whatever
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
words, and be able to find it.
Right.
And I remember thinking when I was young, no, I will hide my Bible under my bed. But then, not it was changing. It
Yeah.
was changing. Prophecy fulfilled to me. I just love that.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the one in Amos about, like, dreaming dreams, and old men dream dreams and young men see visions, or something like that. And then the one in Daniel about the changing of the times, and what was the thing you just said?
The dividing of time.
Right, right, the dividing of the
Yeah,
time, and
the famous one is like running to and fro to search for the word and won't be able to find it.
oh, okay, okay. There's one in
Yeah.
Daniel that's similar. It's like, in those days people will run to and fro and knowledge will increase. So it's a little bit different, but it reminded
And
me
it,
of the one in Daniel.
I think it says something like until the end of time. Wait, something about time, and a dividing of time, which is about what we're about to get into.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the split, you know, not hanging on to a reality that fades out, there's gonna be a time when I'm gonna be pleased to be wrong about the conspiracy I told people about. That conspiracy you told me about years ago is not true. Hallelujah, right?
Right. So, and then I started thinking, okay, so many people just come in to the spiritual community by way of first getting into conspiracy theories, like the Sandy Hook thing and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it just is so interesting because it's that those are such horrible things and everything. And then the conspiracy theory comes out and you're like, well, wait a minute, maybe no children did die, or like just like the 9/11 things, and you're like, and it's like, wait, this is really better. Like, I can get more peaceful about it, thinking that maybe that someone's trying to dupe us and tell us that stuff happened when it didn't. But then when you start looking at it later, like we are now, is it possible that it did happen in one reality, but in our reality, there's this conspiracy theory? You're going to word that better. So why don't you take it
Yeah.
from here?
Yeah. So you're like saying like where the whole thing was staged.
Yeah.
Like you look and we find out the Hiroshima thing was really just recorded in a studio, like the Stanley Kubrick moon landing,
Right,
right?
right,
Same
right.
thing. We're like what? Everything's been fake? Yeah, even the tsunamis and like, I mean, on one sense, if you think about it, that's really what we're looking at here. I mean, because our reality, the nature of our reality is such that once you get out of this construct, okay, so think of it like this, right? You're playing a game. The game is gonna hype itself up to be the best, biggest, baddest game on earth, right? Or in
Right.
reality.
Well, in Earth. Yeah.
Okay, so within our construct, right now our planet is being orbited by thousands of ships of all sorts of beings from other dimensions. Some, we even have like a bunch within our oceans, and
This
they're
came from
watching. They're watching like a big stadium. We would be surprised at just how many are watching for the shift. We're the biggest show in the universe right now, right? But you can imagine, like, if you pop out of this reality, out of everything we think is everything, you'll see that you got this bubble of all these other bubbles where it's the main thing when you're in the mother bubbles. So right now, everything we think of as everything is all fake. It's all an illusion. It's all Maya. None of it is
Mm,
real. All of the
yeah.
characters that we play, and the thing is, when you go outside of go out of body, all the different realms that we think of, that you're never leaving the construct. Those realms are within the bubble, heaven and hell, and all the astral realms and everything.
And every kind of religion has its own heaven, because
Yeah,
whatever you believe, you get.
it's
You
all
know.
part of this construct, right? So, and
Mhm.
it's so interesting because I was talking to Zeke, my son, about this like yesterday, and he's like, yeah, and the other realms, you could probably not even describe it. Like, we don't walk there, we don't do any of the things we do here. It's just so completely different. We can't even describe it. Because why would we change something a little bit? We're going to try something completely different, you know? Something that
Like
we
the
can't even imagine. Something that wouldn't compute within our, like, we just can't even decode it
can't
within
even
our
think it up.
interface.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oops. That thing's popping up on the screen. Anyway, so yeah, so the idea of us deciding to play a character has come up. Um, like the idea of just being in here and playing the role of whoever you are as a person, right? And deciding to so the question of free will is really what I wanted to focus on, because
Yes, that's what we were really on. Yeah.
right, so free will, you know, we have absolute free will, but it's divided up into the way we think of it, right? So it was like before we ever came here, we chose a life to live that is within certain boundaries, but we chose it, so it was our free will to do so. Once
Mhm.
we actually start the game and we forget that we chose this life and we think it's all random, our choices within that life to eat oatmeal or granola, those sorts of things. There's a deeper
Yeah.
meaning to that, right? Um, those choices are our free will within the game. But there's these node points within our life that will hit no matter what our choices are, right? So we might want to remember our gifts to be a healer, or we might want to, whatever our overarching goals are to accomplish in this life that we chose before we came in here. Now, this isn't going to be the ones you think of as ego, right? This isn't going to be like, I'm going to grow up and be a rock star, right? It's not that stuff. It's the stuff that you will get in a car wreck and get paralyzed to get you off of that track to get you on the other track. That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about. Like
that
these,
that's the thing we're seeing. Not to bring it up early, but sometimes the bad things that happen in life are accelerated. It's like putting you in a different level and leveling you up. When things are going easy, you're not really advancing as much. Go ahead. I
yeah,
like
yeah,
detail.
totally. Yeah, that's how it was coming through, and it's like some of the lives, and because like you get into a lot of the true crime stuff, right? So you can
The
really be
children.
affected by some of these stories. You get involved with these people's lives and the horrors that they had to endure, and from their perspective, from within the game, they were used to it, the abuse and things like that. So they were actually sort of tuned to live out that life. But on even the higher levels, they accomplished more. We were talking about a horrible story where a girl dies at like 13 or something, right? But from the other
Madeline's
side, yeah, she like was able to accomplish so much in such a short amount of time from the higher levels, you
and it
know.
makes me cry learning all this because I felt so sorry for her, and now it's been revealed to me that like she kicked ass in reality. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. And
Yep.
that was sort of the thing. That was that's what you find out about. I know that one morning I was waking up and I heard, remember, the Matrix is designed for two things: to make it seem real and to hide the fact that it's doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, so it does. It feels so real, you guys. But it's designed to do that, and then it's designed to hide the fact that it's doing it. But
Mhm.
there's little hints here and there. There's like all the weird things that don't make sense. Like when you, what's that one guy, Decode Your Reality guy, who
Well,
always,
I was gonna bring him up because he always says this. Like he said, he claims there's no free will. That life is by the numbers because it's kind of like this matrix system is like a computer coded reality in the
right,
end of like
right,
all of the for instance, like not to bring up my stuff, but with the Janie Lane experience and my life, the ones and the eights just run and 11s just like run rampant through it to where I can almost see how it's coded. But uh, he always says, um, you don't have a lot of free will. I mean, you might get to decide if you want orange juice or milk with your breakfast, but that's it. And I couldn't grasp onto that until all this we went through in the last couple days, you know?
yeah. And that's really how it is. It's like we choose the life on the higher level that's going to give us our basic outline for our life with different things we want to accomplish, and then in the minutia of that life is where you have some free will. But we have these points where we meet back, and I kind of wanted to bring this up because this can sort of explain when you get deja vu, or when you seem to get little downloads, how that can come about. And that is that even though your awareness moves along one timeline, so to speak, each of the choices you don't take are still there as another place. And it's only that your awareness isn't at that other place of making that other choice that you don't see it, but it's still there. And as we reach these node points, we have collective node points too, like 9/11 being one that connects us all
Right.
socially, a note point. But we have these life note points, like maybe getting a car or getting married, and we'll always hit those node points. And when we do, it like brings back to all the other choices, and we learn from the choices that we didn't make on a subconscious level. It's just part of
Mhm.
the nature of how we're like gaining experience through the life. So that's one of the things I've noticed as I woke up to the Mandela effect. I thought that was a symptom of the Mandela effect, when it seems like you'll have memories of other timelines and things that you're like, what am I remembering? I have like a flash of a memory that isn't from my life. And I've
Yeah.
noticed more people are having these sorts of things. I know you've had them before. I've talked to a number of people who have that. And I've had memories being on a craft, like thinking about coming to Earth. stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Or being on a craft and walking with someone. I have a memory, like walking down the
I have
hallway.
a I have a memory of being in a ship, and it was like taking off, and I'm waving at all of these kids that are like running after it. And it's like
Wow.
I'm like, hey, and they're all like, and they're chasing it until it goes up reach.
Wow.
It's like a memory.
Right. So where do these memories come from? They come from alternative paths. Is the way it was explained, and we also have checkpoints. Like if anybody who's familiar with video games knows the idea of like you make it, you progress so far, and you reach a checkpoint, and then if you mess up or anything beyond that, you can just start at the checkpoint again. But in reality, it's like not only messing up, but you might want to go on a little tangent and try something crazy. Now, here's the whole thing, right? If you, as the player in your own game, go way off script, you can have some real magical stuff happen because now you're like in uncharted territories, right? And you'll get these adventurous ideas because universe or spirit or the divine or whatever you want to call this love energy that's flowing and bringing everything to life loves to adventure out and break the mold, so to speak. So you'll notice that whenever you take that risk and go do something adventurous, you'll notice all these magical things happening. Like universe just loves the excitement of, just living life as an adventure. And it gives you that. I don't know if you
And there's up and downs with that because just like on that, on whenever I'm not trying to keep bringing it up, but with Janie Lane, when I reversed speech to cherry pie, and Logan had said that pi 3.14 is one number that's coded in the system that's like connected to our emotions and things. So you can like break off and like backwards. He was having like positive experiences, negative experiences, and then he is saying, I'm writing the script. It was like he was able to create when he was like out of the off the track of
yeah.
interesting.
And the best love songs are written from people at like the bottom of the barrel, man. They're like dealing with some of the worst heartbreak they've ever dealt with, and they're able to pour that out
I,
into a song. So that's really like the backwards nature of this reality. If you feel like life is just going so smoothly, like I think this is a good point to bring up because a lot of us, you'll feel like when you watch some of the gurus and stuff that they don't deal with horrible days or have bad things happen. So I think it's important to
there's
realize,
big out that they do.
right,
Shocking almost. You're like,
right. So it's like instead of never having problems come across your path in the daytime, instead it's you deal with them differently. You don't see it as like you being attacked anymore, right? They still happen. It's not
right.
like stuff that you might be able to shift your reality out of some things happening or whatever, but you're never going to shift completely out of the human experience and not have any surprises because that's how the game keeps it real, like I was saying earlier, right? So
This is my whole life. And like I have to be really careful what I talk about because I had a lot of stuff go on and I was like, oh well, it'd be really great. Like like if the IRS, I got a letter from the IRS the other day. I didn't even tell you this. And it's like you need to your W-4 was done wrong and you need to resubmit it at work. You don't send it to us. Do it at work. And like, because if that's not done, we're going to start taking money out. And I was just like, I just talked about this and here it is. It's happening to me a lot. We really have to watch our thoughts and our intentions,
right.
what we speak, you know,
Yeah.
especially well,
All of us.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like and that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up
It's,
because
that's funny. Everybody.
I was just thinking about like how like sometimes issues don't come up until you make them an issue. Twice now, I've had this issue that happens with my car because I have a bad connector or something on it, right? And like twice now, it's messed up only after it's come to my mind again. Like, oh, that thing hasn't messed up in a while. Then it messes up. Like one day I looked at it and thought, wow, it's been like a couple of weeks. And the moment I looked down, the little gauge went down, and it's like, but how do I not think about it, but without thinking about it?
I
You
know
know what I mean?
we're
but
learning as we go.
but it made me feel like I did it just from putting. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna stop worrying about it. You know. But yeah,
Yep.
that's interesting the way the interactive nature of reality. You know, the fact that I think Cynthia calls it the mind matter interaction. But there's an interaction where the universe is very much intelligently alive and responsive to whatever you want to create. And we
Right.
don't realize that. So we create a lot of bad things and difficulties for ourselves. So there is a
On it.
state of moving out of that and things getting better. But it's not like, I had sewer problems with the house. It's not like I'm immune to just something coming out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like just to maybe test you in that moment, or maybe make you not go somewhere you were going to go that day or not. Who knows why things pop up? But you know that there's a deeper reason. You don't feel like you're attacked. It's like,
Exactly. I had a very bad experience happen to me. And then I was very afraid to live alone. Like my husband died, my mom died. And I mean, like, all of a sudden I'm living by myself and I had something bad happen. And for some reason, it fixed everything to where I was like, well, I can do this. And then I really acclimated to it even more to where I like enjoy it and feel like I'm at the best point ever in my life.
mm-hmm. Right. And if you think about, if you can probably think back 10 years and you wouldn't even recognize yourself. If you could have somehow flash forwarded to the future, you're like, there's no way I would be able to do that. So think
Right.
about how far you've come, you guys, because I think it's been really accelerating over the last few years, like as we wake up to these different things. But the interesting thing about this whole realm is that the lives can be lived out over and over again. You can live out a life of a 70s rock star if you want, that sort of thing, or you can live in a life where you're creating more. So it seems like the free will, you have different levels of free will depending on what life you try to go into, right? So like the rock star life might be a life that will be filled with like fame and lots of girls and lots of drugs, but you'll have to deal with like addiction and other things will be like you know what I mean? So it's going to come with like a mixture of different things you can experience if you choose that life, right? But you might be able to choose alcohol over drugs or something, right? If you could like choose your poison, if you will.
It's just that, like, very few little things, though, very few little choices take you in a little different direction. Sometimes when you go into one of these lives that's like predestined and coded,
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
Right.
totally. So if you're slipping into life for an experience like that, you might not have a lot of creative free will to change it up because you chose, but that was your choice to begin with to go into more of a railroaded, if you will, life. Like you're going to be on this path, but you know it. You're like, oh, it's going to be a crash and burn in the end. But see, it's so different from the other side.
And
Most of
it's
the
just coming to
people,
me right now. I wonder if people, when you go, if you go into one, maybe you can extend a little bit on it and change an outcome at the end
mhm,
for someone else to experience later.
right? Yeah, that is one thing. You can switch it into a brand new life too. You can take that one life and change, and maybe that's how Mandela effects get started. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody says rewrite someone's life and decides to play it out a little differently. Maybe they learn to overcome their addictions, right? And they end up not dying at a certain age from an OD or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And
Well,
they
that
can.
was like in that Yesterday movie. Remember
Yeah,
when
yeah.
John
I was thinking about that,
was
but don't
alive?
say anything because well, people
Yeah.
should have seen it by now, right? But
If you
yeah,
get
yeah,
to
we could say it.
see it again, because
Yeah.
it's that good.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, but the end of it, like, I didn't want to spoil the end if somebody hasn't seen it.
Yeah, I kind of did.
I don't think you did.
Remember that how the
Watch
only
the movie,
things
you guys. We're gonna spoil it the next show we do. Well, we did
that every
yesterday video. Yeah,
yeah,
but we didn't
yeah,
spoil it in that.
everything missing from that reality was Coke and cigarettes, my biggest vices. Harry Potter, which I don't, you know.
And Oasis, the band.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was a
Wow.
little dig at Oasis.
That was such a good movie, man. It really showed it without even trying. And it was interesting because that Annie song had came out, that
Mm-hmm.
had changed by Mandela Effect about tomorrow. And
Right.
I don't.
Yeah. From did that flip flopped?
Wow.
Yeah, because it was tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you tomorrow. You're only a day away. And then it changed to you're
Because you're
always
always.
a day, which sounded, people were like, that sounds horrible. But it was like, to me, I thought it was like a revelation of truth. If you're always looking to tomorrow, you're never going to reach it, right? It's like the carrot and the
Right.
stick idea,
Yes.
which is a Mandela effect. People are saying that's like a treat or a beating now. And to me, it was like you're holding the carrot out and making the animal chase the carrot that they'll never reach, right? So
Right.
yeah, but if you notice, it's like changed in the if you look it up, it's seen as more of like a treat or a beating. It's the weirdest thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
There's so many changes. I've looked stuff up and found things and then went back to look again, and it's totally changed. It's
right.
interesting.
That was a couple years ago, so if it doesn't appear the way I'm saying, it must have
Yeah.
changed back or
Right.
changed again.
Might change back again.
That's how this
I,
reality is. It's crazy.
yeah. I noticed that a lot at work because, like, with me working in rehab and like drug rehabilitation, I'm always having to type the word withdrawal.
Mm,
And I thought there was a withdrawal like from the bank that was WAL at the end and then just a WL on withdrawal. But it isn't just me. All of the nurses were going through it. How we thought that withdrawal had just a WL, and now it'll autocorrect to a WAL.
yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it with the AL or without the AL at all, but not with the
So
WL. You know what I mean?
weird.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Uh, so yeah, as far as we were talking about,
Oh, going into a life. Like,
right? Yeah, and choosing your life and
and
having
then
that free will, and
and maybe you go into a life that nothing's been programmed in yet, and
right,
I
and
think
you're
it depends on what you choose ahead of time.
exactly
So some of the lives are coded, you know
right,
really makes sense that it would be ran like there's so many things like with memory, and the computer has a memory. There's just so many connections between the computer and our life, you know what I mean?
parallel, so that you can almost
Yeah.
see. It's almost like when you watch Money down through time, how it followed whatever the main thing was, right? So it's like they had bronze coins when through the Bronze Age, and then gold coins in the
Right.
gold, and then like as we moved into using plastic, we went into credit cards or paper. Started using paper, we started using paper money, and
I haven't heard that one yet. That's true.
and the ethereal money, right? As soon as we moved onto the internet, we moved our money into the ethereal world, like right, ether net.
Yeah. I've always said I find it odd and very interesting that on the back of your little modem, there's a little Ethernet, and the E is capitalized. Okay.
Right,
And I think that just has to do with all the ether stuff coming in that we're gonna, it's really connecting.
right. I think it like probably gets named by non-believers in the beginning. You know what I mean? They're like, oh,
Yeah.
like the ether,
Yeah. They're writing a script with that.
and they don't even
Cosmic.
realize it. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the revelation stuff. It's like they're trying to bring about revelations, but they're actually paradoxically they're trying to look like they're fulfilling prophecy, but by doing that, they actually are, right? It's
Right.
just really
Like
wild.
a vision board.
Right,
Yeah. And then when you think about it, like, and I know we've brought this up before too, but like the internet, you're entering the matrix when you like come into this reality.
yeah,
And the World Wide Web, and it's like,
You get caught in a
uh,
web.
yeah, I mean, it makes me think back to that Michael Jackson Halloween special that they had when they showed all of that stuff, and it was all about the hero's journey, and the web was represented in it, and I don't know how to explain. It's so interesting.
So what's interesting about the way we're doing it now? Okay, so in the way we've been progressing through time up to now, we are creating as we go in a new way. And it's because of our ability with quantum computers and things like that, that now we have the ability to manipulate our reality from within it in an interesting way, where the AI can use the intentions of the global population to change things, right? So the first thing they do is they try to create these stories like the mud flood and the reset and the orphan trains and create all these NPCs and influx of NPCs, because with NPCs, with more NPCs, you have more intention, you have more power to change. You see what I'm saying? So the first thing you're going to
Yep.
do is like load up your power to change things quicker, right?
Right.
But as we are players in the game and we aren't just falling in line with what's happening, or just observing, we're taking active roles as key players. Because we're not NPCs, we see what's happening and we can see the influx of NPCs, and we can
Right.
envision other star seeds that didn't have a space to come to Earth right now because it was too crowded. They've just created a bunch more vessels for our starseed family to come into. So now people like that have passed away recently can actually come right back into the game, and they don't even have to live a full life. They can actually enter the game right now as they, and there's like
Kind
all
of at
these
its point.
empty seaters, if you will. NPCs or empty seaters just waiting for more souls to come into the game. So not only are we moving through time this way, it's time's getting rewritten this way, and it rewrites it back through history, right? So like the mud flood and Tartaria and the orphan trains and the Cabbage Patch Babies and all these influx of all these babies are creating more possibilities for star seeds to
Yeah.
incarnate and help right now. So anyway,
Yes. And a lot of this stuff is coming from like insights, like after a session, even though some of them we did years ago.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just now I'm getting the pieces to sort of connect bigger puzzle pieces that I've gotten over the years. So yeah, it's beginning to make, and that the whole isolation thing was the thing that was getting me, because they say we're trying to move to our higher self. Our higher self, what is it? Okay, your higher self observes duality but doesn't experience it. We observe and experience it. So if you
Hmm.
want to head in the right direction of where you're evolving into your highest being, you want to evolve away from experiencing the duality and just observing it. Now, I kind of thought it was cool that I'm like, wait, that sounds like unbiased and on the fence a little bit, right? It's almost like we've just thrown another meaning on top of that quick idea I had in the beginning that's evolved into having more and more meaning to it for me personally, you know what I mean? Where I know it was like divinely inspired, right? Because I didn't know all this. And I
Hmm.
keep coming back to that. Even like Buddhism, where they say the middle way or whatever. I didn't know any of that stuff back then.
Well, see, and that's like it's almost like that stuff with Janie Lane from Warrant was giving me all of that, because it was like if you're swinging to the left and swinging to the right with your emotions, you're not really gonna get anything
Right.
done riding in the center. And so then I remember what I was looking at was it's so weird how you get insights, because I have some shampoo that's purple. It's supposed to take the brassiness out of your hair, and on it it had like French stuff on it, but it was saying like it would neutralize the brassiness, and it had the word on it. Janus was the word for the neutralization. It
Oh
just,
wow. Oh wow,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah.
That reminds me of those ads for the teeth where they're putting like purple stuff on the teeth and it like takes the yellow out on the YouTube ads. I don't know. We all
Oh,
get
I
different ads, but
have
I get that one from time to time.
to.
Like, oh, it's interesting. You put purple and yellow, you get white. But yeah, it must be a
I,
similar thing for the hair.
I've been shown staying in the middle like that, and I was getting so much stuff back then with like the BC and AD and the Janus figure looking, God looking in both directions. But it's like that, and that guy, that one physicist, wrote that book, The Janus Point. It's like the point in the middle of. So there's just so much. I wish we could put it all in words easier.
But that's kind of the thing. It's like finding the balance with everything being opposite in your life. When everything's going so smoothly, you're on the beach sipping a martini and you don't have a care in the world, you're making the least progress then.
Right.
I mean, you're getting a break. We all need a break, maybe. Maybe you need a break. You know what I mean? But, it's not until you start dealing with stuff that you're actually gaining points. And then it's for the worst lives, the toughest lives, those are actually the the difficult level, right? So you play a game, you can put it on easy, you can put it on standard, medium, hard, insane. Some of them will have like this brutal or
Right.
insane or some kind of like it's beyond hard, right? And
Right.
it's like it's really like that.
Ridiculously advanced.
Right, it's
Yes.
really like that. So I'm so glad I didn't choose one of those brutally insane levels for my life, right? Because I've helped people that are there. I'm like, oh, you really chose a tough one for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went the
But see,
easy
though,
route.
you remember me, I did not want to hear any of that. That I was responsible for what's going on in my life, like for real. Like I
Yeah.
didn't choose to have all this happen or that happen. There's no way. And now I'm seeing that I did.
But you know why it's hard? Because I think when we're first looking at it, we're looking at it from the character's point of view. We're not realizing that we're more than the character. So it feels very personal. You're like, you're messing up everything I have. And it's like, this isn't even really this is like an outfit you're wearing for this exercise, right? So then you begin to realize, like, your body's important for the game, but it's not like your real body. It's not really you.
It's the I am, like because
Yeah.
I remember my Bible that I got from my dad when he died. No one else has this in their Bible. It's a Mandela effect for me. And it says capital JE apostrophe capital SUS.
Yeah.
And I have this knowing, which I hadn't really been able to prove totally with like looking at other languages, but I feel like he was showing me the I am in it, you know, when you get to where like the Christ consciousness and all that. But it's not in anyone else's Bible but mine, and I feel like my dad was showing me it somehow.
That's cool.
You got to
Jesus.
look
Jesus.
at it from the perspective of the lower self or the higher self. Once you can back away from it and like observe it, you can experience more neutrality, which therefore helps you to create more.
So it's come through that the horrible things we see here on the planet, we do that because it's an incredible experience for us. Some of the most horrific things you can imagine living through is an incredible experience for us. It's entertaining because we can't, when we're our true wholeness, we can't experience fear. We can't experience limitation. We can't
Right.
experience what it's like to think like this is all I've got. So to feel like you don't have much and then somebody takes that little bit you do have, that's an experience that we enjoy
Right.
for some reason. I don't know. It's fun for us,
Well,
okay?
I guess it's kind of like going to an amusement park and riding a roller coaster that scares the crap out of you, but at the end, I mean, you love it. It was a great ride, you know.
Right. So that's really it.
And it has
It's
ups and downs.
and I have a lot of people that I hate to use the gamer uh example because people that don't play games don't realize like they
You've
think it's
always
like
been
all
the
fun and games.
person, and I'm always about a movie. Like
Yeah.
we're in a movie, you're like we're in a game. So
Yeah,
it's
an
yeah,
interactive movie is good. But I like the
Like it's
game
like choose your
since
own adventure.
because it kind of like puts in, I guess the movie you can think of it like that too, but you know, in a game, if there's a piece that you got to go find or that's missing to accomplish something, you know, they put it in the game somewhere, right? So I think it's important to know that randomness is not real in this realm. Randomness is our key to connect to some really cool stuff. Actually, I'm going to be making an app to do that, and Randonautica is an app that already does this, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the magic is in within what we consider to be random, and it's one of the ways it works in a BQH session. You know, you can create this random situation, and then the higher self will begin to, you know, tell someone they're in a movie theater, what movie do you see on the screen, that sort of thing. You're creating, you know, these random events, pictures in their mind, and then within the moving through a portal or whatever you do, that's random thing, it gives the opportunity for the higher self to display something on that screen
Mhm.
or through that wormhole or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Which probably is going inward.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're watching like a Sims game on the screen and you see the character in their house and everything, if you imagine that character trying to get out of the game by leaving their character, you can see how that would never work. They go out into the art of the background and it's all fake, right? It's all an illusion. They would have to
Mm.
actually go within their character and follow the wire up to the person controlling their character, right? The
Right.
mouse or the keyboard or through the electronics of the computer. They would have to go inward. And it's like that for us, you know? We think it's out there, but really it's inside. That's why meditation is so important because you're sort of taking a step back.
Right. Yep.
And the more you can push this world away and move back to the center, the more you can get the guidance from outside of the realm. So the guidance we get in these sessions, I've asked, are you from within this realm or outside this realm? And it's like, I'm actually outside this realm, but sort of projecting in for the
Right.
communications within this realm. Because we do have a time and space continuum, but they don't,
Hmm.
right? So it's almost set up like a virtual network to put them within our time. It's crazy because we have like little parallel things that work
Right.
similarly to how you hear this other stuff works.
Yep.
The nature of our reality, you know.
There's all kind of metaphors and everything like that are there's these just hints everywhere around about it. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
once you can latch onto one and like get some kind of insight on something, it's just so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
just like the computer stuff being like the RAM and then the REM. Like, but anyway, my
Right.
thing
Right.
is, I'm the next thing I'm going to focus on to try to get insight on is why the mouse is called the mouse. I'm sure there's something really cool there that I just haven't grasped onto yet.
I think it just looks like a mouse with a little tail, right? You think there's more than
There's
that?
going to be more to it.
Okay. Let's Mandela
I'm
effect
sure.
some more. Find some cheese in the whole
Mhm.
picture.
Yeah. Yep.
So, so the back to the characters and the characters we play in the more difficult lives, just to encourage people that chose for
You're
whatever
having a rough
reason,
time. You're just getting higher and higher.
you're getting higher points, basically. So it's like I think the example. I don't think you're gonna remember this, but
I don't ever remember it.
you won't remember this. But so I'm gonna share it. Like so, just so
Okay.
you guys know, Sherry doesn't remember any of her sessions. I have to tell her stuff back, and I haven't told her this back yet. So
And even if you tell me afterwards and we're like, oh, cool, I'll
you'd
be
still
like
forget it again.
texting you in like 2 days and like, what did you say about this or whatever? Or I
Yeah.
mean, what did I say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So,
Forget what you were talking about.
actually, I need to check. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So, yeah, you said, yeah, you don't remember stuff until after and then you'll forget it again anyway. So, I think this will be one that you'll remember, though. Okay. So, in the session, you said it's kind of like you got to get the hell beat out of you. This is what you said. This is funny. And until there's no more hell in you to beat out.
Wow.
And I said,
That's
so So, so I said, some people choose to really get the crap beat out of them to get it over with quicker, and you were like, yeah. So that was like kind of how, like, there's certain amount, like, you're not going to grow, like, kind of like the no pain no gain idea, right? You
Right,
grow the
right.
most through the tribulations in your life. And it's so funny because I've read the Bible so much that I'll come across little revelations of truth, and I'll be like, oh, wait a minute, there's a scripture about that, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
I'll remember, and then I'll go back and read the scripture, and then I'll understand what the scripture actually means. So that
Yep.
happens to me quite a bit, where it's like the whole onion skin thing that happens with the Bible as you, like, sort of read it and you peel back the layers of doctrine and crap they've told you to believe about it, right?
Yep.
And you get to some of these really deeper esoteric truths within the Bible, but that was one of them. It was like something about rejoicing at tribulation because of the very thing we're talking about, right? It's like soul growth. The
Right.
tribulations are. Um,
Which makes people understand, like even Job more, stuff like that. The
yeah,
story of it.
right. That just doesn't make. That's why you have to switch to having multi-dimensional thinking, because if you're playing Monopoly and you're thinking you're the car, I always like to get the car. You're thinking you're the car sitting in jail, you're going to feel pretty confined. Or I use the Pac-Man story, right? He's like in this maze and you feel trapped and you just keep dying and these ghosts keep chasing you. And why is everybody picking on me, right? You can feel
Yeah.
like that. But as soon as you pull out of it and you see it as the game, then it's like you're not a victim to it anymore. You're a player in it. You take an active role. That's really the main reason for bringing this up, is because with our intentions, we can shift into a point where we were wrong about those conspiracies, right? Wouldn't
Yes.
you love to be wrong? Oh, I got
Yes.
bad information. Oh, that stuff's not even on the dark web. What is the dark web? There's no dark web. What are you talking about? That kind of
Right.
shifting. Just, there's the light
And
web. I didn't know there was a light web. you know
yeah,
what I mean?
and it's hard, like when I look back to how I thought in 2019 and how I'm growing to think now, it's I don't know. It's just really neat how it's all coming together, and that little things here and there that were bothering me before, like working out slowly as we move forward.
Yeah. It was even shown to me before I brought it up, but I'll bring it up again here, how, when you think of the body and you think of the consciousness and you realize you're more than that, then you realize, like, you're not really glued to your character within the game. So it was shown to me at those times when the little ones are going through abuse, and then you ask them, like, oh no, I was walking in the garden with Jesus, and you're like, man, they really disassociate it, right? But what really was happening is, like, that person in their life review was actually experiencing what they were dishing out, so to speak. They were actually harming themselves while the consciousness was removed to go do something else. You know what I mean? So
Good.
much is happening behind the scenes that we don't see. Or it could just be someone wanted to actually experience that, and what you can learn from being that far from God, right? And that thrown down to the depths
Separate.
to,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. Because it's really all about experiencing separation at the end of the day. And everything about this realm is designed to distract us. It's all
Yes.
about
Yeah.
distraction, you guys. Everything is about distraction. Worry about this. Worry about this. Oh my gosh, is something coming from over here? Right? It's like
And
uncertainty.
I heard Brian Scott one time talk about the distractions, and he's like, even true crime, and I'm like, all of a sudden I had gotten distracted worrying and praying and meditating for all of these kids that something's happened to or whatever, and then I realized, like, I need to get myself a little bit back on track. It's because it is a distraction. It keeps you from growing.
Right. But even in those stories like that, it was shown in the session how,
Yes.
people can actually experience compassion from watching a story like that. And it can really bring out some of those heart energies from watching
Yeah.
some of that. Or even
Help
like,
be able to see stuff and pick up on it in their own life if something
exactly. Yeah. Make them recognize the pattern, so maybe they might stop it from happening within their sphere of influence. We've talked about that, things that, So it could be like universe is showing you this to say, hey, look, that's happening right under your nose next door or something. So you never know. I think everything can be used for something positive.
And then when you find out that these kids are actually really just kicking ass in the spiritual realm, is when you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
And it just gives you a little peace about it. It gives you peace about it.
Right. And
With all the bad
appreciation for
things
their
that happen in the world.
sacrifice. So instead of
Yeah,
feeling pity and feeding into the negative part, you're actually sending positive energy and appreciation for them experiencing that and dealing with that. And, so it's always for me about trying to move things back to those heart virtues that the Wingmakers talks about,
yeah,
just finding the appreciation with somebody like Fauci that helped wake up so many people, even though he's a monster, right?
right. Yep.
Um, yeah, those sorts of things. So I think instead of just kind of letting our intentions go wild and feeding negative, like one thing, that the main topic we were talking about with the little ones and the whole underground network or all of that stuff going on, a lot of times we're feeding negativity into that because of the parts of it that we're focusing on. So we're
Yep.
focusing on the suffering, right? Instead of focusing on the freedom and um, things working out, that people that are looking for them get a tip and they find them, or angels protecting them, just any kind of positive light you can put onto that, it's going to be sending positive energy and intentions into that situation rather than feeling always like trapped and stuff, because that's the energy you're attracting to that situation. So I think it's important for us that knows about this. At one point I thought everybody's going to have to wake up to it and like make a decision, right? But I really feel like if just the people that are aware of this right now could
Hmm.
just make that conscious decision in their intentions, that we're going to shine so much light and positivity into this dark place that things are going to have to change. It's either going to disappear or get resolved very quickly.
Yep.
And to
And
know
now
that
you
we have the power to do that.
now you're just making me understand like something that happened to me when I was little. My step grandmother was like beating me. I was trying to run away to go home, and she was like beating me back to her house, and I totally was like a whole park and then a street and another park and then standing there like in the sun and appreciating the day and stuff and like looking and like just kind of like, huh, that's happening. Like it wasn't even affecting me where I was at.
Right. So you were down the street looking at your grandma beating you out of body, basically, from a different point of
Right,
view, like a block and a half away, seeing it happen, not feeling a thing, watching it
right.
like an observer of the situation.
Yep. And I can tell you so many times I've seen pictures that children draw that have been like abused and things like that. And they're drawing their self like up here. And sometimes they'll have an angel or something with them. And then all that stuff's going on in the down below.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely heard of that
Like
too.
even there, they're disassociated from it, which seems like they make it look like a bad thing, but I just don't think disassociation is that bad a lot of times.
Well, what if they had to move aside their consciousness to put the consciousness of the abuser inside so that they
Right.
got
You
to
never
experience it?
know. Yep.
You know? Wouldn't that be the most fair thing?
Yeah. That's cool.
Because then you're doing
Yep.
exactly to yourself what you did and you're experiencing exactly. Because on a level of true understanding, that's what's happening at every level of the game. It's all
Right.
us. We're doing it to ourselves, whether you realize it or not? But I think in
Mhm.
those instances, it can be like a direct consciousness experience, you know, sort of an
Yep.
isolated thing.
But now I feel like that happened for me to see that now. And
And
plus,
understand that it can happen.
that was another thing I was going to mention when you were talking about the Bible and how you can go in there and see stuff later is everyone talks about like that out of body experiences and things are demonic. And then they have the scripture that says like whether I was in the body or out of the body, I know not, but I saw this, that, and the other or whatever. And it's like in there, you know,
Yeah.
but people don't see it. And the more that you grow and learn things, then you have this whole different perspective when you see some of these Bible scriptures, and I think they're changing to reveal more truth.
Yeah. But even some of the ones that were there already, like the one you're mentioning has always been there. It's not like a Mandela affected scripture,
Oh no, yeah, there's
there's
a
other
lot
ones
like that.
about like reincarnation that, because it doesn't fit doctrine, it's not read that or understood that or taught that way. You know what I mean? So
Well, Edgar Casey said that like he talked with this angel or whatever, and he would say, "Well, I thought like the Bible was against it or this, that, and the other," and they'd be like, "Go back and read it again with what you know now." That was said to him many times. Go back.
Luna, there she is.
I call her Island Eyebrows. Joke to me.
Oh,
Well,
wanting a
you woke up
snack
from your
already.
nap.
I guess she says it's time for mama. I guess that's a good place
Yeah.
to bring her to an end. But yeah, the scriptures I think are really an important part to begin to see, like that they've been telling us things all along, like the whole calling fire down, like Revelations talking about calling fire down, the beast that would call fire down out of the sky. And then we look at Hawaii. That fits awfully well, doesn't it?
Yep.
Or the
Yep.
people's hearts that fell them out of fear, and then shall they see the
Right.
Son of Man coming on the cloud, or whatever. And you have all these, people having issues from the what,
Right.
and
Yep.
taking it out of fear, right? Either fear of getting something or fear of losing their job or fear of whatever it was still fear. So you can see how these scriptures can be read in a completely different light and make more sense
Yep.
as things make. It's kind of like Nostradamus prophecies, but not as bad.
Well, I think that right now, towards the end of this, is a good time for me to mention how I was so after all the Michael Jackson stuff, and he had taught me to meditate and pray for SRA children and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, I come across Daniel 7:25 that says, "And in those days shall Michael stand up." It doesn't say archangel. It says the great prince that standeth for the children of thy people. And there will be some times of trouble like no other and stuff like that. It's just
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I think that different people read things different with what they're it's like personalized.
Oh yeah,
Like you're
totally. It's
yes.
subjective. Our whole reality is subjective. That's been
And
the
you hear
amazing thing that the Mandela effect has shown us. Like we all have different lists of things we see that's changed, and we all believe each other. You know?
you yeah, and like you it's like you get what you're supposed to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Luna.
Goodness saying, okay.
Okay, that's enough of that. All right.
Oh.
So lots of love, light, and unity. It's so good to have you on here again with me, Sherry. I love you,
Yeah,
and
that was nice. Love
always nice
you.
having you here. It's a good throwback. Paranormal Frequencies, right?
How about that?
All right, lots of love, light, and unity. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Bye.